We're talking about various new life forms that are going to be announced. I'm talking about Antarctica. We're talking about the coordinated and synchronized release of information. The conduit between Antarctica and Mars is going to increase. The idea that Antarctica, you talk about frozen in time. My answer to that is what happens when time what happens when time no longer is frozen?
It's an unearthly location that defies the very image of Antarctica. These are the dry valleys, cold, barren, and except for a few scientists, almost completely devoid of life. The landscape is so alien, NASA has used it as a test site for space programs.
It's a fantastic place. You can't find this anywhere else on Earth. Its closest analog is the surface of Mars.
You might wonder, what are sand dunes doing in Antarctica? It's not the first place in the world that you expect to go to find sand dunes. Well, there are two reasons why we're investigating them. One is because they're unusual and just simply cold climate dunes are not very well understood, because Antarctica is the coldest, windiest and driest continent on Earth. So we're doing this partly for an analogue to see how dunes behave in a cold climate, and how surface processes operating on Earth can be compared with surface processes on Mars, but also to understand the dunes in Antarctica themselves. And we've been trying to use the radar to image the internal structure of the dunes to show how that they have evolved and migrated over time. And then we've used optical dating to try to determine the age of the dunes and work out how fast they've been migrating over time. And it appears, on a basis of modern observations and some of these dates, that the dunes appear to be moving a little bit quicker in the present day than they have in the past. And that might possibly be an indicator of warming in Antarctica.
And now the idea is the closest thing on Earth to a mission to Mars is Antarctica. So let me tell everybody how this is going to unfold. And for the record, do you remember, Doug, on your show when we first talked about Empire Beneath the Ice? Here's what I'm getting at. 18 months ago, and during that time period when the book came out, I said, you watch. The narrative is going to change from the Antarctica to Mars, and they're going to tie the Antarctica to Mars, and the Martian microbes seeded the life, and that under the ice in Lake Vostok, and in the, if you will, the quiet, calm, tropical paradise that exists under the ice, which basically the Germans spelled out in detail. They're going to announce that the Martians created us.
A color calibration module which has 4 lobes on it, and those should be blue, orange, green and brown in that image. And that's how you tell whether the image is calibrated correctly. Just tell us about that, Andy.
Yeah, so we see this on a couple of and we saw this with some of the Viking images as well, where you have this colour calibration chart, and you can see that these panels which were blue on Earth have turned red when they're on Mars. Right. Now this is not possible by reflected light. You can't, if you have a blue piece of paper or a blue piece of paint and you shine red coloured light onto it, it's not going to show up red, it's going to become like a muddy grey or something. But in these images it shows up red. And so what should be muddy grey shows up red. And that to me shows that there's been colour substitution of the blue colour range for a red colour range.
This is fairly well accepted with a lot of researchers, that they are messing with the colours on Mars, and they're deliberately making the sky look red and the ground look more red.
Yes, I mean we can say that it's Gil Levin. He's said this with analysis he's done. He designed one of the Viking experiments. Holger Isenberg, Goro Adachi. I've looked at this as well. But there's been a number of people that have pointed out these anomalies.
And of course, there's 2 explanations, obvious explanations. The first is that the Martian sky is blue and they're trying to hide that fact and make it look red. Or it could be that the images weren't taken on Mars, they were taken on Earth, and the reason why they made them look red is so that they don't look too much like the Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of the researchers who've said, hey look, the Martian sky is blue, I think they could be barking up the wrong tree.
It's possible.
We're placing far too much faith in JPL and NASA.